City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 24 June 2025. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia.
Good evening. Council acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today, and we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people who may be with us this evening. The Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make, while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. I now ask all present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. Thank you, members. Please be seated. Councillor Abrahimzadeh sends his apologies this evening. Otherwise, there's no other leave of absence. Could I ask if someone would move the confirmation of the minutes? Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? I think there may be some in the budget that we will call as we go from people on Caterpillar, AIDA and ACMA.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I declare a conflict of interest when it comes to a Caterpillar item, as I am a member. I'll declare material conflict and leave the room.
And
yes, Lord Mayor, when it comes to consideration of the draft budget and business plan, which I think is item 12, I seek clarification. Item 12, and I think it's recommendation 6, I will declare a conflict of interest, a material one, in respect of my membership of the board of the Central Market Authority.
And for me also items 7 and 8 for AIDA and Caterpillar. Thank you. Yes, Councillor. Would you mind putting on your
Sorry.
Sorry.
Does this clear from on the Adelaide Festival Board? No. Okay.
I understand that's in the AIDA budget, not in our budget.
But we're still approving that together with the AIDA budget.
I don't think it's. I think it's a decision by the AIDA board, but I'll seek advice, Councillor.
Through the presiding member, Councillor Couros' membership of that committee does not preclude her from voting on the adoption of the business plan and budget.
Thank you, members. We'll move on to the next item.
Excuse me, Lord Mayor. I think I just need to ask about the Adelaide City of Music and whether that's part of... No.
I think that it's buried also in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
members. In terms of deputations, I did have one request for a deputation. Have we got the form? Mr. McLean? And I refused the deputation on the grounds that the matter was an operational one. I think Councillor Davis wished to comment on that.
No, you refused it on the grounds that he spoke previously about a separate matter, and then you said that you didn't want him to speak to the motion. Are you confirming your ruling that you don't wish Mr McLean to talk about, because my understanding is his deputation is in relation to Councillor Kouros's motion at 17.1, and he hasn't previously ever spoken to that?
I know, but the matter has been canvassed. It's an operational one, and I've made my ruling, and you said that you wish to dispute it.
Well, I'll move that Mr McLean be heard as a deputy.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That's lost. Division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to Mr McLean speaking to Councillor to deputation. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Kouros and Councillor Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Petitions, we have none. We have item 11 next, which is advice from the Audit and Risk Committee, which is just noting that the meeting met on the 13th of June. Deputy Lord Mayor moved, Councillor Snape seconded. No debate on that. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. I'm not sure whether Councillor... I think Councillor... Can we take that again? I apologise. I missed you. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. I apologise for that. Now can we move on to item 12, which is the recommendations of the reconvened Finance and Governance Committee. Now, Councillor Siebentritt.
Can I just clarify, Lord Mayor, will we take these? I know that there's a number of elements to part 12. Are we going to take them individually? Having just come straight out of the CFG?
It depends. Did you have an amendment?
I do have an amendment in relation to minimum rate, which is the rating policy review, which I have sent through to the administration, which is on the screen here. So yeah, so if we're taking this on block, I would like to move it amended form.
I think it might be easier to take them one by one then. If we'll take the first one, which is the Community Engagement Charter submission.
Point of order, Lord Mayor.
Yes.
The item that was numbered 7.2 in committee was advice to council. That would take precedence over the budgetary matters that become recommendation 3 and so on.
I'm sorry, I just need to clarify that because I've just become disorientated after the...
Point of order, Lord Mayor. This is the exact reason. Point of order.
7.2 is on the screen. We deferred one item, and 7.2 is the first matter now, which is the 7.1. I apologise. Is the Community Engagement Charter. So if we take one at a time, so that's a seconder for that for part 1, seconded by Councillor Giles. Is there any debate on that? We're doing 7.1, Community Engagement Charter. I apologise, it's coming up rather quickly. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Recommendation 2, which is actually corresponding to 7.3.
I'll declare a general conflict of interest because it relates to me, but I'll stay in the chamber and debate it.
I'm sorry, I've got the wrong number. I apologise, I'll go with the screen. 7.2, which is the desktop review, and there's a conflict declared by Councillor Davis. Thank you very much. If there's no other comment on this?
I'll debate it.
Are you going to stay in the room?
Yeah, I have a general conflict of interest, so I intend to debate it and vote.
So it's moved by Councillor Siebentritt, seconded by Councillor Snape. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you.
Just a moment. Can I just ask if Councillor Siebentritt wants to speak to it?
I reserve my right, but I will sum up.
And your seconder? All rights reserved. Councillor Davis, aye.
Thank you very much. I want to reiterate that I stand by every word in my letter to ratepayers this council faces a financial disaster should it proceed with the current budget and the assumptions in the long-term financial plan. Now, it's very disappointing that our discussion earlier was cut short, because my next question was going to be, if the state government, and they've reiterated they will not fund our budget black hole, what will that do to our prudential borrowing limit, and can we actually afford to pay for the Torrens Bridge and as we are? I suggest we absolutely cannot, and that is because our prudential borrowing limit is reached within the next few years. Now, further, the administration has told this independent report that the asset management plan that was adopted by this council and approved by this council shouldn't be considered as part of the near $100 million black hole that I suggest this council is facing. And that is in stark contravention to Section 122, subsection 1B of the Local Government Act, which requires consistency between the AMPs and our long-term financial plan. Now, this council faces, as adopted by the Audit Committee on the, listen carefully, 14th of June 2024, in our strategic risk register that was adopted by this council, they forecast an inherent extreme risk, and there is no higher risk rating. Now, there are mitigating factors that have been applied to that extreme risk, and that reduces that risk to a risk rating of high. So this council is in financial crisis. We have no other option but to slug some of our ratepayers' 500% rate increases to try and claw back some of the money, some of the most vulnerable members of our community. We're cutting important events, and it was proposed that we cut long-standing partnerships like the Australia Day Council. Luckily, that has been restored, and furthermore, we have to go after our ratepayers for piddly amounts of money and rip up their parklets. So I suppose most concerning is that this motion and the report supports exactly what I've said in my letter, and this proposal says that there will be a statement issued by the council that would correct any misinformation. But not one of you could tell me what that was, and I asked multiple times exactly what it was I said in my letter that was incorrect. But apparently you're going to correct the factual information. When I asked the chair repeatedly what exactly it was this motion would cover, not a single person could tell me. And the reason is because that report backs up everything that I've said. The warning that I issued to ratepayers is real. This council is in a financial crisis, and it seems that this council is asleep at the wheel, and I'll repeat these comments at the budget.
To speak, I saw the Deputy Lord Mayor had his hand up a moment ago. Would you like to speak?
Look, I find it disappointing. I find it disappointing that in the face of an independent report which sets out each and every one of the factual errors in that newsletter of Henry Davis's, Councillor Henry Davis's, to which this motion responds, and I'm grateful for him to declare a conflict of interest and speak. I find it extraordinary.
Councillor, can you switch your microphone off? It creates feedback. Thank you.
Okay. You don't want to hear what I have to say anymore?
I find it extraordinary, Lord Mayor, that the facts are listed, and it says clearly in relation to the information about budget shortfall, wrong, asset management funding, wrong, rate revenue, wrong, financial crisis status, wrong, and he says it's all right, it's all correct. Now, I have heard this in another place, that is to say, even when you're confronted with the facts, you continue to deny and assert that you're a correct person, that you are actually telling people what is factually correct. That is not what has occurred. This is, in fact, a really damning report, but more particularly, it points out that we as a council have been accused of creating a financial circumstance that simply does not exist. It does not exist, and yet it will be pleaded forevermore that it does. That is the tactic of politics these days. However, I welcome the support of the members of this council who are concerned about our reputation. The proposal is to allow you, Lord Mayor, to send a letter composed by the administration to all ratepayers with their rate notice, so there's no additional cost to the City of Adelaide, but sets the record straight. And so that should enable you to say there is no financial crisis. There is none of the other issues that have been mentioned. A asset management funding problem, a rate revenue problem, a financial crisis. No, there is not. You will be able to say that clearly. And one hopes that will help to restore some confidence to people whose confidence has been dented by misleading or absolutely inaccurate information, such as that which I mentioned at committee, where it suggested that this budget will approve a sum of $250,000 for a traffic study in Light Square. Lord Mayor, that was last year. And indeed, these comments are quite dated. Were they said in 2018, 2019, 2020, 21? I would have said, yes, I agree. These are problems. However, this council is now under the guidance and I would suggest the shrewd stewardship of a council that understands financial matters.
Could I just correct a slip of the tongue? You did say in error that a letter was to be written. It's a forward to the pamphlet that accompanies the budget.
I understand that. That's a slip of the tongue, Lord Mayor. A letter is a communication.
Thank you.
I find this very amusing, Lord Mayor, because as we could tell, the format of this meeting could not be followed because there was no recommendation brought forward into the committee for us to amend a motion to have this before us at the council chamber. What was presented at the committee was a presentation of a report, which I didn't get to ask any questions to the person that made the presentation. I didn't get to ask any of those matters that she had put forward. And I find it very disappointing that this is a political stunt in order to be able to retaliate against Councillor Davis's information. This is being, the councillor here is using the council facilities to put out a newsletter to counteract an argument. Now, if he believes that the information that was in those newsletters were incorrect, we have processes. They're called a Code of Conducts and Ombudsman. That is the trial by duty. That is the trial. That is where the comments that are made in Councillor Davis's newsletter can be true or false, can be clarified by the Ombudsman, and he could go through that procedure. But to use the council, to use council facilities, to use this as smokescreen and mirrors, to be able to look like that we are doing a fantastic job because we know that he is the instigator of many of the budget assumptions and budget...
Point of order, Lord Mayor. I couldn't possibly claim that credit.
Oh, I don't think it's any credit due, Lord Mayor.
I don't think any of us in the chamber have created any of the assumptions. They came through workshops on the advice of the administration.
Oh no, during the workshop it was put forward by Councillor Martin in the workshop to put the $13 million in for the U-Park. It was a workshop. I didn't get the opportunity to actually discuss that further because it was a workshop, but that was automatically put into the long-term financial plan.
No, Councillor, just as a matter of fact, we had a discussion and we decided that we would not be rebuilding the infrastructure at this time.
In a workshop. We had a discussion in a workshop. It wasn't a council decision. It was in a workshop. So like a lot of things happened through a workshop, but no concrete, to me, robust discussions in debates happened in a lot of these matters that have been put through. I think that's really unfair to put the burden on our ratepayers to have the cost of having this information against a particular councillor because you don't like what he said and you think it's false when you have a process in which you can go through to be able to make those claims. Furthermore, this is poor governance. We did not have
Councillor, can I just, as a point of order, point out you're saying you, implying me?
No, we as a council. This council is going to vote for it. We know which way it's going to go. I don't mean you, Lord Mayor. I mean the council that will vote in favour of this motion because there was no recommendation in the previous committee. It feels like, and it is, a political stunt.
Can I just raise a point of order?
Yes, councillor.
Councillor Martin, for example, raised a point of order to make a comment. You're constantly interjecting into the members when she's speaking. She's got 3 minutes to speak. Why can't you wait until the end of end of it, and then if you have any corrections you'd like to say, then do it then. But it seems to me this is a deliberate tactic to disrupt the member from speaking by raising multiple points of order. I really ask that you stop interrupting and that Councillor Martin stops interrupting as well.
Thank you for your comments. I don't think I've got a particular tactic this evening. I'm a little bit jet-lagged, but thank you for your comment in any case. Can I ask whether the mover or seconder would wish to comment? I would like to sum up. I don't want to sum up if there's more comment at the moment. No other comments to be made? Councillor Siebentritt.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll be brief. I know this may be getting presented as being political stunt, but from my perspective, there is nothing nefarious about what's going on here. As decision makers here in the City of Adelaide, we need to be able to separate between facts and then our opinion. And we need to understand where those facts lie and then where there are opinions. That's the simple matter. And I have no interest around code of conduct because I don't believe anyone would intentionally mislead the chamber around financial information that underpins our budget process. What I do believe, though, is we need to differentiate between facts and between points of opinion. So I read, for example, on the executive summary, and I won't read the entire executive summary, Lord Mayor, because everyone can pick that up and read it. It's in the public domain. But it says, financial crisis status. COA, City of Adelaide, is not in a financial crisis. Key financial indicators remain within target ranges and debt levels are considered prudent and sustainable. However, ongoing financial risks relating to project cost estimates, grant resilience and debt exposure requires continued monitoring and risk management. It is a fair and a balanced piece of work. It clearly outlines where there are facts that we as decision makers need to rely on. It also says, in a very transparent way, where are areas that we all collectively know remain our challenges. We heard the editor of the report or the author of the report tonight point out where those challenges are. We're completely transparent on those and they'll come up again in the budget process. So this is an attempt purely to clarify where the facts are that we can commonly agree to and where there are points of debate, and where are those points of debate, they should rightly be debated here in the chamber. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. We'll put that to the vote now. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item 7.2. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles and Councillor Siebentritt. Thank you.
Thank you, that was carried. Could I ask Councillor Siebentritt if he could move his amendment to 7.3? Oh, it's there already. Thank you.
It's on the screen there, Lord Mayor.
On the screen. So I think the change is going to 400. And is that seconded by Councillor Snape? So, thank you. Councillor Siebentritt.
I'm happy to speak to that, Lord Mayor. So the idea around a minimum rate was originally brought into a workshop or a discussion in City Finance and Governance Committee in April. So this has been with us now for a couple of months. I think there were some compelling reasons put forward as part of the minimum rate in the paper presented by administration, including looking at a more equitable rating policy. It was noted there, which I found of interest, that we are the only council in the state, that does not have a minimum rate or a fixed charge, and also note that this has been commented on by our Audit and Risk Committee and that they had been in support of it. However, Lord Mayor, I also listened intently when we had deputations come before this and the consultation from the budget process, and we heard concerns raised from some members of the community around the way in which this would be applied. And so, having listened to that, and I feel like we're regularly in a position here where we're trying to weigh up what are difficult decisions around how we improve our budget position and also how we responsibly manage the budget. My proposal here is that we reduce it down to $400 rather than $600. My estimate and understanding, having reviewed the numbers, is that for the vast majority of ratepayers for whom this would impact, it will be less than $1 a day impact. But it does go some way towards meeting some of the costs that have been raised in the previous CFG committee meeting. For example, in relation to maintenance of our roads and car parks and delivery of various other services around the city. So I think it's important that we get on the same page as every other council in the state in terms of having a minimum rate or a fixed charge, but also believe we need to do it in a slightly more measured way than had been originally proposed and what went out for consultation, and hence the reason for the 400, not the 600. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Snape, you seconded?
Yeah, can I ask this is just about the rate increase, yeah? This is not about the budget.
I'm sorry, I don't quite follow the question. Could you repeat it? Sorry.
This is just the minimum rate section, not the whole budget.
It is the rating policy, Council. So I don't know that I can help you any further. Is that the answer he needs?
Through the presiding member, the answer to the councillor's question, this is about a review of rating policy, which is proposing the introduction of a minimum rate.
I'll speak against the motion. Sorry, can I ask one more question? There was discussion about a whole bunch of properties being charged or subject to it because their land was incidental to a main property.
You're right, Councillor. There were some exemptions that we identified, and I wonder if we could just list those for the councillor. I thought this was sent out in an e-news or a document.
Oh, that would be lovely if you can access your council computers.
Can I just have some clarity here?
Which I cannot.
Through the presiding member, I'd refer the councillor to page 31 of the City Finance and Governance Committee agenda, which makes it clear that where two or more adjoining properties have the same owner and are occupied by the same occupier, only one minimum rate will apply. And there's a cap on the number of properties applicable to which the minimum rate is applied, no more than 35%. That's all detailed in the draft policy.
Right, okay.
I think that's your question answered, is it, Councillor?
Yeah, it is, thank you.
Okay, would you like to speak now?
Yes, thank you. I completely oppose this proposal. Now, the City of Adelaide is very much unlike most councils in the state. Most councils in the state are primarily residential. The City of Adelaide, and they have large blocks of land, they actually have a minimum amount that they can subdivide, and then they usually build a house on it. There is essentially exceedingly rare circumstances where there might be a small parcel of land like we do in the City of Adelaide. In fact, it's extremely common in the City of Adelaide to have extremely small parcels of land, sometimes just a small little office. And the way that we raise our rates and we always have raised our rates, is based on the annual value method, where we determine what the rental income could be from that particular property. In this case, we might have, and we don't really have the data because it wasn't ever presented to us in a report, we might have a very small office which might pay, say, $500 worth of rent a year, and then we're going to slap on top of them a 600, now a 400 minimum rate, which would essentially double the amount of rent they pay. Of course, we haven't done that investigation, so how can we possibly know? I still understand that there will be some 700 residents who will see rate increases of more than 50%, and 380 of them will see rate increases of between 100 and 200%. This is going to impact, most notably, about 230 small offices and retail spaces within the city. Now, we've seen I've heard countless stories of people leaving the city, even the Retro Man in North Adelaide, for example, who's now leaving. All these small businesses are leaving the city for a common reason, and it's because we are absolutely taxing them to kingdom come. So that is what I've been hearing from my community, and this only exacerbates the problem when you're going to put in a $400 rate increase. So to all those members who are disquieted or unhappy with this proposed minimum, there's one thing you can do. You can vote out the councillors who are proposing this absurd policy with no justification and very little data to support it. You can vote them out of office at the next election in simply a year and a half.
Councillor Kouros.
Lord Mayor, I have a question through you to administration. With the exemptions and now with the reduced rate, what income what revenue are we looking at?
Thank you, Councillor. Can we have a response, please?
Through the presiding member, as provided in communications to council members through e-news, a $400 minimum rate would raise in the order of $99,000.
Taking into account the exemptions? Okay.
That's correct.
So we've gone from a revenue of 230,000 to 99,000. Because I think initially with a 600 without the exemptions, I think it was about 230,000.
Through the presiding member, a $600 minimum rate would have returned $286,000. A $400 minimum rate will return an additional 99.
With the exemptions?
Correct.
Can I speak to it now?
Sorry, I thought you were. Sorry.
No, I had to ask that question. Sorry, Lord Mayor. I just think it's a really sad day for our ratepayers, actually, because they've gone through all this pain. We had the highest highest number of people replying to the consultation because of their fear and their concerns to how we are handling this budget. I'm really saddened by the fact that it took a lot of angst and a lot of anxiety for us to reach a decision for ratepayers to be able to be heard, and we've reached the decision only to achieve a $99,000 revenue. And I think that is just absurd. I think that we really need to highlight here that exactly what Councillor Davis has said is that we actually rate completely different to suburban councils. We are a capital city council. We have a very complex rating system which is fair and equitable for everybody. It's always been fair and equitable. I think in the past there was a very detailed report in regards to this, not in this council, not in the last council, but I think 2 councils ago, which they stayed within the way that we actually rate within the city of Adelaide, which is within the rate of the dollar and fairly, as Councillor Davis said, within the valuation that the property yields. Now, for someone that is renting an office and is in a shared office and they're paying only $500 a year, and that the rates for these offices are going to be impacted because of this minimum rate, and that has to be it's not a very fair and equitable way in which we're doing it. And I think we've got to really reconsider what we're doing here, and hopefully one day in the long term that this can be reversed, because I don't think that this has been very well thought through. We haven't had a report on it. We haven't been able to really measure what the impact will be, and we haven't done our due diligence. We've actually just had an idea that was floated that we thought maybe it might work, maybe it might be a good idea to get 200,000 plus revenue. Now it's down to 99. I just think that we really are acting like a suburban council, not like a capital city.
Thank you for your comments. Do I have the seconder wishing to speak? No? No? Would you like to sum up? Not summing up. We'll put that to the vote then. This is 7.3. This is the amendment. All those in favour? And all those against? That's carried. Division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item 7.3. Please stand until your name has been called in favour of the motion. Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles and Councillor Siebentripp. Thank you.
And I should point out that was carried, and it was a variation to the motion as printed, so it was the motion in its entirety. 7.5 is now the rate rebate policy review.
Happy to move, Lord Mayor, but I reserve my right.
Moved by Councillor Siebentritt, seconded by Councillor Snape. Does anybody wish to discuss this? No? I take it. Do you want to sum up then, Councillor Siebentritt?
Summed up, Lord Mayor.
All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. While I'm sitting in the chair, I think we can go to the next item, 7.6. 7.6 we have to take in various parts. Now, can I just say that part 1 to 6 is without conflicts and is the process. So can I ask Councillor Siebentritt if you'd like to move that?
Yes, I would like to move that,
Are
Lord
you happy
Mayor.
to take 1 to 6 on block?
I am happy to take it on block, Lord Mayor, yes.
Can we just scroll up so everyone knows what we're voting on? That's going up to 6, but leaving the ACMA, the AIDA parts for the next discussion. So 1 to 6, seconded by Councillor Giles. Do you wish to debate that, Councillor?
Lord Mayor, I did want to speak to it. Can I just clarify, though, would you like to speak would you like us to speak to all of it at once and then you'll vote on it separately, or just 1 to 6?
I think 1 to 6 would be best. I think that 4, 5 and 6 are just the subsidiaries, so that the main bulk of the budget will go in 1 to 6.
Okay, Lord Mayor, I would like to speak to it. Lord Mayor, I'd like to begin by thanking the administration for the work that the team has done in putting together this budget. As we'll be aware, this began back in December. Nearly a full 7 months of work by the administration and the team. We thank you for your work, as well as we thank the Audit and Risk Committee for the work they've done in reviewing our budget. I would also like to thank members from right across the chamber who have participated in the meetings and workshops. As being the chair of the CFG, even though we don't always agree, those robust discussions we have, I believe, are really important how we shape our budget each and every year. Lord Mayor, there are many positives in this budget, and let me go through a few which are helping to contribute towards delivering the priorities in our strategic plan. This coming year, we've allocated $39 million for new and upgraded projects across the city. We're turning the old Aquatic Centre site into a community playing field. We're upgrading James Place, and who could forget the work that we continue to make, the progress we continue to make on the icon not far from here over at the Central Market Arcade. We're investing $67 million into the maintenance and renewal of council assets that support a vibrant economy and that support our community. Those assets perform both functions. We're also upgrading parkland facilities. Now, I know some members like myself will have been through sites like Park 21 West and see the appalling state of those change rooms that have emerged over a number of years. We're at a point now where my understanding is December, January, we will see soil turned over at the site at Park 21 West and we'll commence that journey of construction of those facilities. I know it is long overdue and there's been a lot of hard work by both the community involved with that site as well as administration, but that's something that we'll be progressing in this coming year. We'll also see work on revitalising our main streets as well as our continued commitment to growing Adelaide's economy, including through the investment we make in the Adelaide Economic Development Agency, which I'll come back to a little bit later. Lord Mayor, this is a budget that is not without its challenges. We continue to be in a cycle where rate rises are required, and this is not done lightly. In fact, we remain in a period of budget repair on account of the need to return our asset renewal funding ratio back to 100%. This year, we take one more step closer to that goal of 100%. We go to 93.5%. The need to get back to 100% is not a fabrication of this council. It's not something that we've invented that we thought was important. It's been highlighted for every single council in this state by the recent ESCOSA reviews that have been well publicised. Now, I, for one, have never seen budget repair as a way to lay blame. This city endured a shock to our system with COVID, like many other cities across Australia and around the world, and this is a necessary measure to continue to take a further step towards a 100% renewal ratio. I know that there are some who propose that we move to 100% more quickly, Lord Mayor, but I'm not quite sure how we do this without further significant rate rises. I am seeking leave. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you. Lord Mayor, I'd also like to say thank you to all those ratepayers who took time to provide feedback on the budget and business plan. As we mentioned in the CFG meeting prior to this tonight, there was a significant amount of consultation received, and we also had a number of delegations. I've just spoken to the minimum rate. I was criticised at the time of saying once a budget goes out, it never changes. Well, tonight we listened to the community feedback and we made a change and amendment. We've also, as we will see, made amendments, for example, in responding to community around our parklet policy. Again, something which we've received significant feedback on in recent months, significant feedback, and we're now looking at the application of a flat $165 per square metre. This is reducing the revenue that council brings in through parklets from $89,000 down to $38,000. So we're cutting the revenue we get from parklets in by half. This is going to tally up to savings for some of those parklet holders in the thousands of dollars. In addition to that, and members will remember one of the parklet owners, Damien Kelly, coming to the site here, or coming to the chamber, and talking about other amendments we can make. We're looking at payments being quarterly in arrears rather than annual. So, Lord Mayor, we do and are actively listening to the feedback we receive from our community. But I'm firmly of the view there is much more to be done. And while I'm pleased to see the budget come before the chamber tonight, a budget that continues to deliver on our strategic plan and confront the challenges we have in maintaining ageing assets, there is still work to be done. And so I'd use this opportunity to say that I look forward to our ongoing discussions around how we fund economic development across this city. I know that's something that many members across the chamber here are very passionate about, and we have a workshop coming up in August that will take us further down that path. Lord Mayor, this is a budget that continues to deliver on our strategic plan with a focus on responsible financial management, and I commend it to the chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you. This budget fails every test of basic responsibility, and it presents a surplus on paper, but in reality it conceals deep structural problems, underfunded infrastructure, overstretched debt and broken promises to our business community. Now let me raise 4 critical points. First, the near $85 million infrastructure black hole consisting of the Torrens Weir, the Bridge and the Rundle U Park. These are major renewals that underpin our city, and yet Council is relying on grants that have not been secured. And in fact, Rundle U Park doesn't even assume we will get a grant. If they don't arrive, and there's no guarantee they will, we'll be forced to fund the entire shortfall ourselves. Now, that's not planning, it's gambling. And this risk sits squarely with ratepayers. Now, in the 2029 financial year, we will borrow 92% of every single dollar we can. And then the year after, in 2030, we will borrow 98% of every single dollar we can. And then that's it. And as Tom Kotzentona says, and he says the bridge and the weir are the responsibility of the City of Adelaide, then what? Well, we have 2 options, a massive levy on our ratepayers or administration. Now, the independent report that we received tonight echoes those concerns on page 12, and these issues that you have not addressed are continually ignored. Second, this so-called surplus, $8.5 million is being advertised. It disappears the moment we actually fund our asset renewals properly. If we meet our AMPs, this budget is in deficit. We're not saving money, we're actually just deferring maintenance and pretending that that's sustainable and responsible. Now, why do we need to do that? Because if we actually don't apply that surplus to our debt, we run out of money far, far sooner. And ASCOSA, a true independent report with all of the facts, has warned us of that very fact, and that warning should not be ignored. Thirdly, the broken promise to our small businesses. This council adopted an ambitious economic development strategy, and AIDA was tasked with delivering it. They advised us clearly that they needed 9.5% of rates revenue, and this council has failed to budget accordingly, leading to a near $5 million shortfall. That means cancelled events, fewer precinct activations, reduced investment and traction. In short, it means another glossy plan that gathers dust. Meanwhile, our businesses will fall to the likes of a newly developed Burnside. Fourth, debt and rates. We are operating near our debt ceiling, and the only way that we can raise money is by hurting our small businesses, demanding that they pay unreasonable fees for things like parklets, or hitting 230 small businesses that would sit in the city by a massive rate increase. This is the only way that this council can see to raise money. And there is no fairness in this model. There is no resilience, and there is no margin for error. Couple more sentences, 10 seconds. This budget is built on wishful...
Since supporting leave?
Just 10 seconds.
Carried, yes.
I cannot support it, and I won't pretend that it's acceptable to load this burden onto ratepayers, businesses and future councils. We must go back to the drawing boards and actually listen to the consultation that was damning of this budget.
Thank you very much. Just check who wished to speak. That's Councillor
I too rise not in support of this business plan and budget. I just want to highlight a lot has been said, and unfortunately, unlike Councillor Steventrip, I don't jump in joy in regards to this budget, and I don't feel safe for the future for the City of Adelaide. I don't think we're heading in the right direction. I think we have made a lot of mistakes, but I just want to highlight a few. Is something, Councillor Giles?
No, I'm sorry, I'm just confused about what we're speaking to. Is number 1 to 6, isn't it?
Okay. Sorry, I had chatter here. I was... I just want to highlight a lot has been said tonight, but I just want to highlight a few that I would like to address regarding this budget. We're looking at a 5.6% increase, which is way above inflation. We're looking at an increase in employees' costs, 9%, which is adding $7 million to our budget. We're looking at new fees being introduced, one that we just passed just recently. We're looking at underfunding our renewals by 93. We're only not reaching the 100% target, which means that we have to make up that shortfall somewhere along the line. Our total debt has increased. It's to $50 million. These are the things that are concerning, and these are the things that we really should be focusing on. And we haven't been delivering for our businesses. Now, our businesses, and why I fight for businesses, even though I'm also a resident for the City of Adelaide, is because 75% of our rates come from the commercial rates. This is what's upholding our city, the City of Adelaide. This is what's upholding the city. And we should be respecting that, and we haven't. We haven't increased AIDA's budget for them to be able to deliver the economic plan that they had put before us, which we asked them to do. And we did not. We ignored it. We completely ignored it. When we are not funding events, a lot of events got cut out of this budget. The commercial events which supported our city has been cut out of the budget. These are things that are concerning because over the long term, we need to support our businesses because as it was highlighted by Councillor Davis, the way that we rate our city is that the more these businesses are in the City of Adelaide, the more they yield, the more we earn. And if we don't look at this and a holistic approach and make sure that we invest in our city, then we cannot be asking our businesses to invest in theirs. We should be leading by example. We are not. We are not walking with them side by side. And in the end, do you know who's going to pay for this? Because if businesses leave, they go out the suburbs, or Burnside becomes the place where they shop, and Rundle Mall ends up being... Do I need to stop? Rundle Mall ends up losing occupancy, then we only have ourselves to blame because we did not plan for that. We did not plan to hold up our city. And then in the end, it's the residents that are going to be paying a whole lot more because as it's detailed here, that the only way that we can survive is by increasing the rates. And I can tell you, in all honesty, there is no way that the residents and businesses can have another rate increase the way we've increased the last 3 years.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other comments? If not, the seconder.
Can I just ask a question about the process? Is the debate starting again after number 6?
Yes, we will, but only the matters that are related to Ada, ACMA and Caterpillar.
Okay, can I just speak then? I will speak. Sorry, I've just thought that I would have to wait to the next bit of the debate. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Lord Mayor. I just...
Clarify, we've only moved 1 to 6 to date,
Yeah.
and then I'll come back and do 10 at 11, and then we'll knock off the odds where there are conflicts.
Yeah. I just want to rise to speak to the budget and reinforce the positive things that we are moving to do even better than we've done in the last year, that relate to our strategic direction as a council and to the things that the community said that they want us to do. I was really excited here in the last meeting that we've, because it's planting season now, we have just planted, what was it, 200 and... I can't remember, over 200 trees in the last few months.
107, I'm told.
207 trees, that's right, in the last, a really important initiative of this council. We've got an amazing program going which is about the conversion of empty spaces in the city so that families and other people can move in and renovate, and we support them in doing so in order to address the housing shortage, but also in order to address the vibrancy of our streets. We've been continuing to support the issue of homelessness. We are a designated City of Music, UNESCO City of Music, and we now have a very, very strong culture policy, and we continue to be probably the most effective supporter of the City of Music designation that exists. I know the City of Music board is extremely pleased with the support that the council gives, not just in finances but also in kind. We have actually need to address our community support services, something that I'm passionate about, because we did an audit recently which showed that we are way below the standard for the support that communities should have in terms of community facilities, community centres, libraries and so on. And as our population grows to the aimed objective of 50,000 people, we're going to have to start thinking about the people that are living in the city. And that means that we also need to think about who are the businesses in our city. We have a large number of small businesses in the city, a large number of businesses that rely on a vibrant community and rely on a celebration of our diversity and our culture. And they also rely on us to address really important issues such as climate change in order for them to be able to be sustainable into the future. So I think that this budget is another example of the way that we're putting the priorities that have been consulted with the community into the money that will deliver those priorities. And I know that we talk about a range of things in terms of money and finances, but I think that we should stop talking down our city and sell it.
To extend, we are. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried.
I think we should stop talking down our city and talk as if the sky is going to fall and celebrate and look at what's been going on and how well we've done in really difficult times post-COVID to make our city something that I think we should be proud of in terms of the way we've addressed our vibrancy, being a great place for people to live and a great place for people to visit.
Councillor, are we ready to sum up? Councillor Siebentreut.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In summing up, Lord Mayor, it'd be easy to present the adoption of a budget like this in a black and white way. You're either for or you're against business. Any rate rise is bad, or there should be no fees. But the truth of a capital city budget is that it is not black and white. In fact, every dollar has multiple claims on it, and we have trade-off decisions that we need to make. And those watching on tonight will see as we actively debate how we tackle those trade-off decisions. And I expect the majority of ratepayers appreciate the balance we are trying to strike here as we have this discussion tonight. Now, like Councillor Kouros, I'm not jumping for joy. That's what responsible financial management is all about. We make decisions based on facts and we tackle trade-offs head-on. Now, it's been claimed that we have no surplus. Well, we do, but let's be really clear about it. It's there to fund debt. debt that we have willingly entered into. But let's remember why we use debt. The reason why we use debt, it is an option so that we don't have to have further increases in rates. There is a debate here around intergenerational equity, because if you load up generations now with higher rate rises, it means that those in the future aren't necessarily paying for the assets that are being built out. And so we need to strike that balance. It's also claimed we're in financial crisis or a financial disaster. Now, I won't relitigate that because we have an independent review that points to that. Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's also been suggested that this is a budget that works against business. Now, I've been involved with business for nearly 20 years and started my first ever business on the second floor in a single room on a building in Hutt Street. I disagree that this budget is against business, and the facts tell a different story. This budget invests in main streets and infrastructure that directly support commercial activity across this city. We're continuing to advance priorities in economic development through AIDA. The budget also helps to maintain essential services and upgrade assets that contribute to a thriving city, which in turn attracts and retains workers and attracts visitors. And we can see the success this city has had over the past year with a number of visitors pouring in to visit major events. A budget that neglects our ageing infrastructure or abandons responsible financial management would be far more damaging to the long-term interests of businesses in this city. Now, while this budget makes strong progress, as I said earlier on, our work isn't done, and I've heard a number of other members talk around the work in relation to AIDA, and so as I said earlier on, I'm particularly looking forward to the workshop that we'll have in August where we can further talk about how we fund economic development. Now, not all members may agree on every detail of the budget, and I completely respect that, but we must approach this as a shared challenge, grounded in the same set of facts that have been carefully assessed and transparently presented. This is how sound financial governance is done.
All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members.
This is how sound financial governance is done. In closing, Lord Mayor, this is a budget that balances priorities, being bold and aspirational. It's about growth and renewal and about economic support and financial discipline. It's not black and white, it's a careful balancing act, and it reflects the complexity of governing a capital city, and I commend the budget to you.
So I'll put that, all those in favour. This is just 1 to 6, reminding you. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item 7.6 for 1 to 3 to 6 only. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles and Councillor Stephen-Tripp.
That's carried, members. Thank you. Now I'm going to move to to paragraph 7, and just remind you that the Deputy Lord Mayor has a conflict, a material conflict.
Yes, Lord Mayor, I am a member of the Adelaide Central Market Authority, and therefore I have a material conflict. I will leave the room and not participate in the discussion or the vote.
Thank you, Councillor, or Deputy Lord Mayor. So this is attachment B to item 7.6 on the agenda for CFG. So could I ask if you would move that again, Councillor Stephen-Tripp?
I thought appointments to council subsidiaries and declaring conflicts, there's always been an issue. I thought that was resolved a number of years ago. Is that not?
As I understand it, we don't declare a conflict in the committee, but we do here. But I'll just seek advice.
Through the presiding member, there's no conflict in the recommendation of a committee to council, but when it comes to council and the actual adoption of the subsidiaries' budgets, there is a conflict for members of the governing board.
No, I understand. I just understand that. Sorry, maybe this is a point we can take offline. My understanding was that you could seek an objection, like an exemption from the minister, so that we don't actually have to have members leaving.
We haven't sought an exemption, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Perhaps we should, because then we wouldn't have members leaving.
They don't come
for
easy.
council subsidiaries.
Those exemptions aren't granted easily, Councillor.
May I just offer some extra information? I understand that when you're on a subsidiary, you do not have a conflict of interest in dealing with the council, but from council we have a conflict of interest the other way round. And it was one of the elements of the recent Local Government Act reforms that has been suggested needs to be changed to make it easier.
I just know when I was serving in Burnside that we did have council subsidiaries, we had members on those boards as well, and we got the exemptions like really quickly. I would just suggest the administration perhaps try and see what happens.
So thank you for your advice. We can look into that. Moved by Councillor Siebentritt, seconded by Councillor Snape. This is item 7. Is there any debate on that? ACMA's budget. All those in favour? 7. ACMA. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, I'm going to declare an interest for item paragraph 8. I will leave the room and I will stay out of the room for 9 as well. When we get to 9, Councillor Snape will join me. Could we get the Deputy Lord Mayor back, please? We've just lost him. Thank you.
Okay, I understand the Lord Mayor has a conflict and is unable to participate in the discussion of item 8. Could I please have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. Councillor Snape, do you wish to speak? Councillor Siebentritt. Councillor Davis.
It's just dawned on me why everyone's being so respectful. If I get kicked out, you won't have the numbers.
I'm not sure what you're insinuating, but do you wish to speak, or is that a comment?
Oh, it's just an observation.
Thank you for sharing with us. Councillor Kouros.
Thank you, Chair. Now, we're only talking about the budget for the Adelaide Economic Development Agency.
That is correct.
Thank you. So I would like to express my disappointment that we did not take on board the board's recommendation for the increase in budget in order to deliver an economically thriving city. We talk about being bold, we talk about being aspirational, we pushed them to do it, we put them through 2 reviews, we made them jump hoops, we did it all, and they came to us with a strategy in which we completely ignored. On top of that, we have completely ignored the consultation, where the consultation asked us to consider increasing the budget for AIDA. We have not done that. We have not listened to the consultation. We really haven't listened to the people that have took the time out to actually respond to our budget. What we've just done is that we cherry-picked what we thought we would like to put and note for the consultation, from the consultation. In order to be able to deliver all those lovely community events and help support the small businesses and celebrate our city and, you know, be joyful together, is that we need to look at the people that are the core people that are delivering the revenue for our city. And that 75% of our rates come from the commercial sector, and we continuously ignore that. And what I'm afraid of, Chair, is that I'm afraid that in years to come, as a resident in the City of Adelaide, that my rates are going to be so high, because we are going to have to keep on increasing to be able to deliver on all that we want to, because we haven't even taken the bridge and the weir really into account. We're just hoping that the government might come in and step in and help us out. So the people that are going to actually be paying for this at the end of the day are those small business people. And as a person who has grown up in small business for a very long time, since the 1980s, and who my parents had their snack bar here on Weymouth Street, and I had worked there in the 80s. I know how hard it is for them, and I know how hard it is for these small businesses, and I know how much they need for people to come into the city, and I know how much work we need to do as a council to make sure that they do that. And yet we just talk about the lovely trees that we're putting into the city and how much joy everything is.
Thank you, Councillor Kouros. Is this a comment or do you wish to speak? I beg your pardon?
Speak.
Speak. Yes, you may speak.
Thank you. Now, let's be honest, I think, as a council chamber, the only point of difference that we have from the suburban centres, from the other suburban retail centres, is our events and our ability to activate the city, and it's in fact AIDA. Now, we don't have free parking like Burnside, which they advertise on the Rundle billboard. We don't have the convenience of other major shopping centres. But what we do have is we have events and activations that bring people into the city and experiences that invite energy. And we also have so many of our office workers who we want to attract and continue to attract to stay in the city after their work is done. And we have an agency tasked with doing that, and that is AIDA. Unfortunately, though, this council went out to consultation, and we asked businesses and residents what exactly they wanted, and they told us more activation, more events, and more promotion of the city. And we developed an economic strategy, we adopted it, we endorsed it, and yet we've broken that promise to our ratepayers. AIDA gave us a delivery plan to execute on this bold, new, innovative, amazing plan, and it would cost 9.5% of rates revenue, about $14.5 million. And remembering that our businesses supply 75% of our rating base, this is an extremely disappointing result that we will only fund them, that there will be a $5 million shortfall. That means less precinct activations, there's no event programs that will be expanded, and our city won't continue to be promoted beyond what it already is. Now, without the funding that AIDA has asked for, you can bet your bottom dollar that our retail sector will severely struggle, because right now Burnside is launching a massive expansion. It's polished, it's modern, it's beautiful, and it will send a huge number of our patrons there. And this budget, I don't understand how you can be so proud of delivering this massive underfunding for AIDA when there is a huge risk sitting just outside our city walls. And AIDA is the one that would be tasked to save our city. However, this council, despite the endorsed economic plan, despite the consultation, has refused to properly fund AIDA, and I cannot support this motion. We should be funding AIDA to achieve our approved and resolved and adopted economic development strategy.
Councillor Siebentreut.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I just wanted to first of all thank the staff at AIDA and also the board for the work they've done in putting together those costings. I think my observation as a CFG chair is the way the budgets work is you need to come forward with funding models in order for dollars to be granted. Not once, not a single time did we ever see a funding model come forward to find an extra $5 million, or that could find an extra $5 million to support AIDA. And that's why this August workshop, it is so important. Now, I'll put my hand up as well and say I didn't bring one forward because I was not able to identify it at the time during the budget development process. I didn't recall seeing one.
Point of order.
So I also have a point of order.
Yes, which part of the meeting procedures or the councillor behaviour policy do you wish to address, Councillor?
I would like to address the misinformation that Councillor Siebentreut just said, that not once did a councillor put forward a suggestion, and I'd like to point out that in a workshop and in our discussions in the first year of this council, I pointed to the fact that we needed to address the issue with AIDA and produce a funding model in order to support it. So,
with respect, Councillor, that's not what he said. He said no one came forward with a proposal to fund the $5 million.
With respect, Chair, the way that this council has operated is by putting forward items at workshops, and I talked about a Main Street funding model, and which was rejected by this council at a workshop and discussions for the Finance Committee. So
I'm afraid, Councillor, you haven't convinced me. I'll hear the next point of order. Councillor Davis.
I have a point of order. Councillor Siebentreut is, in my view, being misleading. I did put forward a funding proposal, and we have an $8.5 million surplus that is available for us to use. We are banking money from our ratepayers, and it was a very simple equation of using that surplus to fund an endorsed and approved economic development strategy. So it's completely untrue to say these proposals are not forthcoming, but I will say that he was true in saying that they were immediately shot down.
I don't believe I said they were immediately shot
Councillor
down.
Kouros said that they were immediately shot down.
But I do apologise through you, Chair, if I've misrepresented any of the previous proposals that have come forward. But I do note that the surplus is already earmarked, as I've just described before, to cover debt, which we're using to help in with relation to our assets. The main reason I wanted to point to this is really that we have a session coming up in August. The idea there is to work out the funding formula. We're obviously all very passionate about this and look forward to taking it further then.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen-Tritt, and I too look forward to the means by which we might meet that goal. Now, before I ask the mover if he wishes to speak, the administration has advised me there's a small problem with the wording associated with 8. I'll ask the CEO to explain.
Through the presiding member, this goes back to the fact that the committee recommendations were originally due to be considered on the 17th of June prior to the June board meeting of AEDA on the 18th of June. I can advise the chamber that at its meeting on the 18th of June, the AEDA board approved the AEDA budget. Therefore, number 8, rather than notes, should be approved. Approves. Delete notes. And that the second sentence, the final approved version, that's no longer relevant because there were no changes to the draft AEDA budget on the 18th of June.
Can I have a question in regards to that matter?
Yes, you may, of the administration.
Of the administration?
Yes.
My understanding is that when the Chair presented the strategy and what was required, that he did not approve of what was put forward by Council, and he did implore that we need to increase the budget. Was the approval due because of they had no other avenue or no reason not to accept it because they just had to, or was the approval meant in a way that they think that this will be of benefit to the City of Adelaide?
Through the presiding member, I can't talk to the rationale for the decision of the AEDA board to endorse their annual business plan and budget, but their meeting minutes clearly indicate that the AEDA board endorsed the 25-26 AEDA business plan and budget.
Without the Chair being present, because it's very conflicting to the information that we have received, I would say that notes would be more appropriate than approves, as that it's not consistent with the information that we receive from the Chair of the AEDA board, and I think that's misleading.
Councillor, I understand that the intention of the motion is for the Council to approve the business plan and budget
in accordance with the Charter.
In accordance with the Charter. What is it that you're disputing? You don't want us to approve it?
Disputing the fact that it was approved with the board, but I would say that approving it through the council is obviously the council's prerogative. But I would say that the words are saying that the board approves the budget is inappropriate. You didn't say that?
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor, but it doesn't say that. I'll read it to you.
It says about the words that the.
So which words do you object to?
The CEO used that the board approved the budget.
No, but that's not in the motion.
No, that's fine. But I would rather it just say notes. But anyway.
You'd rather say what? Sorry, please.
It doesn't matter, Chair. It doesn't matter, Chair. I'm just saying that the CEO made reference saying that the board approved the budget, but it just wasn't consistent with the information that we received from the Chair in regards to the budget that the AEDA board received.
So you're saying the Chair has spoken to you and he says he didn't agree with the budget approval?
No, the Chair spoke to us, Chair, in the chamber, in the council.
I think, Councillor, I think the CEO is saying that the agency approved the budget and the council is now being asked to approve the budget. Whether they were happy or unhappy doesn't really enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was very the decisions from the Chair or what he was trying to tell the council at the council meeting. in regards to the budget.
Look, Councillor, thank you. Yes, thank you for your contribution. Now, does anyone else have something that they wish to say before I hand back to the mover? Summed up? Okay, the mover has summed up. So, noting that this proposal has had the text edited, could I seek a show of hands for those in favour of this motion? That motion is carried. Those against? Thank you. A division has been called by Councillor Kouros. Those in favour of the motion? You want me to call the names? Okay. Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles, Councillor Siebentreut. Okay, now the Lord Mayor tells me that she has a conflict in relation to number 9, and I understand from the wave of the hand that Councillor Snape has a conflict.
Material conflict, as I'm a board member of Caterpillar, and I will leave the room.
Now, for the sake of clarity, this motion is for Council to approve the business plan and budget for Council's subsidiary, described within the papers. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Davis. Councillor Giles, do you wish to speak to this?
I don't think I need to.
Okay, Councillor Davis. Does anyone wish to speak to this?
Can I just ask, now that the state government has taken control of the golf course, does that change Caterpillar's budget in any way, or their terms of reference, or what they'll be considering?
I would think so. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
It needs to be recognised that the Caterpillar subsidiary budget is essentially an operating budget to administer the committee. So it's a total appropriation of $323,000. It does not refer to or reflect the $25 million investment by council in the parklands.
I stand corrected. Does anybody wish to ask a question or to speak? In that case, I'll ask the mover to sum up.
Summed up.
Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.
On to paragraph 10 and 11. I think we might take them on block. Councillor Siebentreut, are you happy to move those again? Thank you. On block 10 and 11, seconded by Councillor Giles. Is there any debate on these really process matters? No? All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We'll move on to the next item, which is the recommendations of the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee. There's only one element of that, which is the Capital Works Programme. Would you like to move that, Deputy Lord Mayor?
Yes, I will move that, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, may I just make a brief comment?
Yes, please do.
And as it was observed at committee, we are moving towards the end of the financial year. We are racing to complete our capital works. And I just want to acknowledge the work of the administration in expediting a capital program that has gone through the roof in a very short space of time. And look, I asked for the figures, and I found that in financial year 23, our entire capital budget was $55 million. The financial year 24 was $89 million. We have not yet received, obviously, the report for 25, but within the budget for the coming financial year, we're proposing $110 million. So next year, we will have doubled in the term of council the expenditure on asset maintenance and renewal and new projects. I've said it before, I just don't understand why our administration isn't groaning under the pressure. We are delivering double the capital works in 4 years. It's an extraordinary result, and I thank everyone involved.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. There are a number of items that are still remaining in the budget, and I was wondering, my question was, will those be completed, delivered and achieved before 30 June, or will there be a carryover? Noting the administration said that they are on track to deliver all of the capital plan previously.
Thank you, Councillor. Through me, could I get a response to that, please?
Through the presiding member, there are the report coming through from committee reflects significant contracted commitments. We're confident that we will deliver on those through the month of June. We're going to be very close to the overall target.
Councillor, supplementary?
Yeah, very close to the, I'm seeking, what kind of forecasting do we have about, because as I can see, apparently on the 31st of May 2025, there's a remaining budget just for one thing, new and upgrade, $10 million, which hasn't been contracted for and hasn't been spent. Will there be a shortfall? And can you give us your best advice, because we're now mid-June, and I'm just wondering, like, are these like we're approving our budget as well? Is there and we did this last year as well, shouldn't we be aware of if the council can't deliver on these capital budgets well in advance? Are we going to be able to spend this money in time?
Thank you, Councillor. I think we're almost at the end of June, so we should be getting very close to the finishing mark here. Could Mr Philippou maybe help?
Through the chair, the report that provided to you was for the end of May. As of where we are now, the 24th of June, and we are tracking this on a daily basis, our anticipation is that there will be a spend of something between $8 and $10 million for the month of June. That'll get us well beyond the KPIs that have been set by council for both asset renewal and for new and upgrade spend.
Could you just clarify for the councillor what the KPI number was?
The KPIs for asset renewal were 92.5%, and the new and upgrade target for spend was 56 million for the financial year.
Yeah, so
6.6 million.
Will there be about? Is that a $7 million shortfall then in the capital expenditure budget?
Could you just repeat that again, please? I didn't quite catch it.
If you're on track for another 10 million, there'll be a $7 million shortfall.
Through the chair, the numbers I haven't got exactly to hand. However, there is always going to be some movement with some of the projects that have been affected by some level of delay or deferral.
Yeah, it'd be really good if we could get that forecasting in these reports, if you could actually tell us whether we're going to complete it or not. I personally don't agree with the KPI of anything delivering but 100% of the budget. But if we are going to undeliver it, my view, I was speaking to it now, Your Worship, in these types of reports, it would be, I think, really important for us to know how we're tracking. It's certainly something that I'm very keen on. I don't agree with the KPI, and that's just my personal view of delivering anything that's not in the budget. My expectation is you deliver 100% of the budget, unless I know the state government intervenes. But otherwise, that would be my expectation. But having a clear forecast of whether we're on track or under track would assist the council, particularly at the midpoint, because I note that in previous years we've also been behind, and also note that there's also been some significant capital projects which have been moved off into the next financial year as well, and some reshuffling there. My question has always been to the administration, do you need more resources to deliver on this program? I'm very openly about not agreeing with the budget, but what I'm concerned is that there are some critical elements which, and we don't necessarily have purview into what's I think we do. I think that's wrong. But it would be better to have some kind of scrutiny and more informed discussion about what we can realistically complete in a year and what we can't going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. I think we've taken that on board. Thank you. So I don't know if anyone wishes to make any further comment. If not, summing up. Summed up. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you, members. That's carried. The next item is 14.1, which is adoption of the valuations. Could I ask if someone will... Councillor Siebentritt, it's another financial matter. Moved by Councillor Siebentritt, seconded by Deputy Lord Mayor. Is there any debate, discussion, its process? Councillor Neighbours.
I had a question in relation to the valuations. What will be the... How much has the valuations increased from last year? Maybe in the report. I couldn't see it when I looked. But what has been the...
I'll seek
increase?
advice.
Through the chair, I will need to take that on notice to provide an accurate response.
Okay. Do we know what the amount of the additional rate revenue has come from an increase in valuation versus an increase in the cents in the dollar?
Through the presiding member, this is a procedural matter in that the rate increase provided for in the business plan and budget, 5.6 for existing ratepayers, is a function of the metrics of valuations and the rate in the dollar. So based on the valuations returned, the rate in the dollar has been adjusted to deliver the 5.6% rate increase. It's simply...
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Deputy Lord Mayor, would you have... Ask that we put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Thank you. I'll just give my report. As you know, in the last fortnight, I've been in Bonn, Germany, where I joined delegates of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, which included multiple satellite meetings, and there spoke about our achievements as a city and a state, but also made the case for Adelaide to host COP31 in 2026. These vital sustainability discussions were a timely reminder of the global scale of action required and the critical role cities play in achieving real outcomes. COP30 is being hosted in Brazil in November this year, and it was a pleasure to talk to André Godinho, the Extraordinary Secretary for COP30 of the municipality of Belém de Pará, which is going to host the meeting this year. This is the 2025 meeting, and it was interesting to learn what the event might mean for Adelaide should we win our bid. There are hundreds of organisations represented at these events, and the conversations in Bonn made clear that cities must work in close partnership with national governments to meet the scale of the climate challenge and the transformation required to be climate resilient. Collaboration will be at the heart of Adelaide's bid to host COP31, as it includes Pacific nations as well as Australia. Should our bid succeed, the city will welcome between 30 and 50,000 delegates from around the world, giving an extraordinary opportunity to showcase our innovation and leadership in climate change and the required remediation and resilience. Even though the COP31 host city has not yet been announced, it's sensible to begin contemplating how we might plan to host the many local governments involved. Hosting a summit of this magnitude will require the cooperation of all levels of government, industry and the community, but I know that Adelaide is truly up to the task. I'd like also to take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Lord Mayor Philip Martin for stepping into my shoes while I was overseas. He did a stellar job responding to the community and the media following the North Adelaide golf course announcement. Now I've spoken to the Premier and expressed subsequently my disappointment that we have not seen any of the plans or achieved the collaborative outcome that we had expected and hoped for. We had expected to go on an agreed path to an MOU and a lease, and despite Council's ongoing efforts, this was not achieved. In that light, I'd like to acknowledge the administration's efforts in giving the government all the data and information that would have assisted us to achieve the desired outcome within the necessary timeframe without redress to legislation, which now seems likely to occur within the next week. Someone move, noting, thank you, move Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Giles. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. Now, report from council members. Do we have anybody who would wish to make comment? Councillor Davis, do I see your hand?
Yeah. There's probably something that I've remiss to mention, but I will mention it now. Not necessarily in my capacity as a councillor, but I suppose it probably is incidental. The Adelaide Ballet Company has found new premises and are seeking to raise money to establish a professional ballet company in the City of Adelaide. I was extremely pleased to host a fundraising dinner for them and to attract additional investment, and they very much appreciate the support of the City of Adelaide that we've given them previously with, I suppose, advice from the administration, I believe a grant as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Yes, look, Lord Mayor, I usually don't do this, but I feel that I do need to, given that in the past 10 or 11 days I've been representing you. May I just note that on your behalf I hosted a civic reception for the Australian Dance Theatre, which this year celebrates its 6th decade, having been founded in Gay's Arcade in the City of Adelaide in 1965. And the reception was, I'm told, enjoyed by all. Additionally, I represented you at the Australian Landscape Artists Awards on Friday night. I'm disappointed to say that the City of Adelaide did not win a prize, but many others did. And additionally, I represented you at the Festival's Adelaide Policy Conference, at which the outgoing CEO made a number of remarks which were widely reported in the media. And additionally, it will come as no surprise that I fielded a number of inquiries in your absence in relation to a government announcement, the one you mentioned.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? No? If not, could I ask that someone move the noting as recommended and printed? Councillor Davis moving, Councillor Kouros seconding. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to the motions on notice. Councillor Kouros, your motion.
Do I have a seconder?
A seconder, Councillor Davis? Yes, Councillor Davis is seconded.
Over the past 12 months, parklet owners across the City of Adelaide have been in touch with each other to share their stories of the inconsistent application of parklet fees. On behalf of many parklet owners, I attempted to negotiate a fair fee structure via deputation to the ACC in December 2024. Surprisingly, there was no option for questions or feedback, and the matter was dismissed in a few short days. As a result, this created a conversation between disappointed parklet owners left feeling unheard to share their concerns and stories of their individual fee structure. During my meeting with the CEO, Michael Sedgman, in February of 2025, he told me he couldn't discuss other parklet owners' matters. We, other parklet owners, and I then wrote to the CEO in April of 2025 to say we are willing to discuss as a transparent cohort, share evidence and have open conversations. In fact, we thought this was critical, and we still do. The stories shared provided evidence to prove that some were successful in having their fees amended and or removed for the 23-24 and 24-25 for financial years respectively. The days after my parklet was removed, I emailed you all this evidence and outlined my concern. This evidence shows one parklet owner was invoiced an initial 23-24 amount for $8,490.24 on the 7th of November before being reissued with the same invoice for an amended amount of $1,515.89 on the 19th of February 2024. No rhyme or reason was given. They did nothing wrong, just like many of us. They simply wrote a heartfelt letter to Council highlighting the absurd fees that you have demanded we all pay. Except in this instance, instead of saying no and ripping out their parklet, you waived their fees and reissued them with the invoice. What is most concerning is that those of you who did not respond to my email expressed that you had zero knowledge of this. Where others have not been charged any parklet fees, it's only fair to apply this to all. It's difficult for us to comprehend how the ACC have been polarising approaches to each individual business. There is no consistent application for us to review and apply in a fair context. It also leaves us wondering how you expect us to sit back and move on without any questions or wanting to engage in meaningful conversations. I personally have had many emails containing significant administrative errors, phone calls from several senior council employees who have no decision-making authority, who are unaware of my background in relation to these fees and are considerably shocked each time I explain the situation to them. On many occasions, we have been gaslit. We have been told that all parklet owners paid their 23-24 fees and they were invoiced.
Being sought? I think that has not been carried. Oh, it has. Sorry, there's been a change of voting. Councillor, you've been given 2 extra minutes.
We've been told that all parklet owners paid their 23-24 fees and they've been invoiced. Yes, this is correct. However, as mentioned, some of these invoices were amended to have their fees waived and then reissued. Together, parklet owners have wished to work together with the ACC in this matter until we can find a consistent approach to the application of these fees in the past and for the future. We were all disappointed and quite frankly shocked to see the administration comment on the forthcoming motion stating that your council is more concerned about the reputational risk associated with the reinstatement of my parklet as opposed to the fair, equitable and right thing to do by your ratepayers, their well-being and the city's vibrancy. Based on what I've just shared with you, we are all calling on you to acknowledge and act on the inequalities by reinstating the parklet outside Jack and Jill's Bar and Restaurant at the expense of the City of Adelaide. Waiving the outdoor dining fees of car parking revenue applies to parklet holders for the 23-24 financial year due to inconsistent charges applied. Preparing a report to Council on July 25th reviewing each individual parklet owner's fees, charges applied and paid in 24-25, alongside with the proposed fees for 25-26 with the intent of supporting fairness and transparency and business viability across the city. Tom McLean, Jack and Jill's Restaurant Bar.
So can I thank you for reading that document? But just point out that you may have noticed 211 in the advice from Council suggesting, and I'm of the opinion it may be accurate, that Part 2 is ultra vires because it relates to 2 years ago's funding, and I don't think that it's not possible to waive funds from 2 years ago. So,
sorry, Lord Mayor, what are you saying? Sorry, can you please clarify that again?
And I would be inclined to agree with them in that Part 2 of the submitted motion requests waiving of the outdoor fees from 2023 to 24. That's 2 years ago, and it's not possible to waive fees retrospectively.
Then a variation would be that we forgive the...
Can you just wait for the
I propose a variation that we forgive the debt.
Can I just let the councillor finish, one person at a time?
I'm happy for the Councillor Davis to speak.
I'm happy to propose a variation that perhaps Councillor Couros will support, is that we waive the liability. So rather than waiving the fee, if that's what the suggestion is, that we essentially do not pursue the liability for the fees applied.
So to waive the liability. So this is a variation to waive the liability for?
Waive the liability for lost income. For outdoor dining and loss of car parking revenue fees applied to... Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Can we just tidy this up slightly? And is the mover happy with that? Yes. Thank you. Can I just make sure? Are we happy with that motion? Okay. Do you wish to speak to it? I know, but I accepted a variation from... It's my fault. Okay, we won't sum up then. Councillor Davis?
I'll reserve my right.
Deputy Lord Mayor.
Yeah, look, I have a question of the administration. Clearly this, from the floor motion, talks about a waiving of fees. I don't have any information in front of me, but how much are we talking about? Are we talking about that motion, as I read it, says that we're waiving all outdoor dining and loss of car parking revenue fees, and that would include businesses like Councillor Kouros's, which has outdoor dining, and it would cover parklets. Is that the intention of the move?
I don't know whether I'm not able to read people's minds, but I'm not sure whether it talks about...
It's talking about the outdoor dining and loss of car parking revenue fees.
Only to parklet holders?
Yes.
How much then are we talking about then?
I'm unable to...
Through the presiding member, all 23-24 fees, apart from those invoiced to Mr McLean's business, have been paid.
So we'd be reimbursing people, but are we talking of...
My understanding, and I hate to try and interpret this, but my understanding is it's not a liability if it's already been paid. And without wishing to discuss the financial matters, because...
Oh, so it's for one person that we're waiving all these fees?
I think so.
Is that the intention? Is the intention that we single out one outdoor dining permit fee holder's contributions to council, but all the others still stand, they still pay theirs? They have paid.
Yeah. If I can assist, once we have the report in part 3, then the council can turn its mind exactly to whether we should be actually refunding fees paid under the council under that fee structure. So that's correct. My understanding would be waiving the outstanding liabilities, which I understand there is one, but there could be more. But secondly, that we would have, and I would foreshadow a motion that would reimburse the parklet owners' fees paid above what we're currently charging them.
And so that does help me. Now I can try to understand the scale. How much are we talking about then? And what does that do for previous years and subsequent years in terms of the principle of refunding that year? And what is the intellectual basis of just refunding that year?
I'm not able to answer that.
Okay. Well, look, Lord Mayor, I will speak to this. This...
Put the timer on now because your questions are over now speaking.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, this proposal has been mortally wounded by amendments on the run. We're all asking each other, what does it mean? How does it affect previous years? How does it affect successive years? I don't know, nor does the administration. And that is the problem. A point of order? Yeah. Are you accepting that, Lord Mayor?
Is it a point of order?
I haven't told you what it is yet.
I know, I'm just waiting expectantly and with excitement.
Councillor Martin says that he wasn't sure what the amount would be, but the administration clearly said it was $34,000, which is contained in the report that is before us all.
So that's your point of order, your clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, he's misleading the chamber to say that he's
No, I think he was seeking the question. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I do wish we could save up our interruptions until the end, as Councillor Davis suggested earlier. Lord Mayor, look, it is mortally wounded. I am dismayed about this motion, and I really am dismayed about it. Good governance is actually about a board, a government, or any organisation for that matter, allowing its organisation to follow the policies determined by that board. Now, this organisation has determined its policy in regard to parklets and in regard to outdoor dining and updated them from time to time. And in fact, we have recently, despite what we heard from Councillor Kouros, gone through an extensive process of reassessing the fees and charges that relate to parklets. And it was determined that there was grounds for council to simplify the process and to reduce the cost of outdoor dining in parklets to $165 a square metre, where previously there was a charge per square metre and a charge for loss of parking revenue, which may or may not have affected some, but certainly affected others. So we have listened. We've determined a rate which I think is fair, that is to say $165 a square metre, and the same space within a building with a hospitality establishment would probably cost about $500 to $600 a square metre. This is a very reasonable charge that is being applied. In respect of what has gone before, I absolutely regret that this matter has been raised again, because I feel, and I know that there are representatives of this business in the audience, but I just feel it's so unfair that their personal dealings with council have again been dredged up, and that we have to remind members, as the administration has done, that there were 15 separate negotiations with this business about its dealings with council in an effort to ask them to comply with the agreement that they entered into to establish a parklet. Not only were there 15 separate negotiations, there was ultimately an agreement that the fee would be paid. There were two payments, so the principal was not at stake. There were two payments, $1,000 each. That is noted in the administration's comments. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Can I just ask that we try to keep away from the financial situation of the business? I think it's
Lord Mayor,
embarrassing to keep discussing it.
I know it's in, and that's the point that I'm making. It is in the administration's notes, which are published on the web, which have been distributed widely. And that this is the embarrassment, that all of those details, including the offer of council to waive $11,000 of the bill, the discussion about what would happen if it wasn't paid, the generous offer, I thought, of the administration to say, well, look, how about you remove the parklet so we don't have to destroy it and remove it? And that there was no answer. Now, all of this stuff is immensely personal, and it comes up every time it's raised. I think this should serve as a reminder to all of us that the elected body should keep its nose out of the personal invoices of the people who have relationships with the City of Adelaide. It is just a terrible principle. And to drag it up time and time again is not only a great embarrassment to those involved, but, Lord Mayor, it's an embarrassment to me and to this council.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
I accept, Councillor Martin, that it is an embarrassment to you. Tonight, we are not just voting on a parklet, we are voting on whether this council is capable of admitting it got something wrong, and whether we treat businesses equally or based on who makes the least amount of noise and who is the most compliant. Let's be clear, Jack and Jill's wasn't just charged a high fee. They were charged $34,000 while their fees were waived. Others had their fees waived, reduced or quietly written off. No explanation, no policy, just different outcomes for different businesses. These fees came as a result of a motion from this council where, let's be very honest, we were not told how much each of these parklet owners were going to be charged, and certainly there was no agreement by Tom to accept them. This was a complete surprise to the ratepayer. Now, Tom, the owner, tried to raise these inconsistent issues with the council. He asked for a review. He asked for equal treatment. Instead, his parklet was ripped out in the middle of the night and destroyed. And when a motion finally came to this chamber asking the council consider reinstating it, he's not even allowed to speak. Now, we've been told this is operational, that it is a convenient shield, but I say that is a convenient shield to avoid accountability by this council for the decision we made as a council. This motion is not operational, it's political, and it's about morality. It's about whether we are prepared to right a wrong. We've also been told that reinstating the parklet carries reputational risk. to council. No doubt it does. And with respect, that is completely backwards. The reputational risk isn't in fixing the mistake. The reputational risk is about doubling down on unequal treatment, hiding behind bureaucracy and refusing to hear from people that we've affected, people like Tom. Now, Councillor Martin says that ripping up a parklet is good governance. Tom did not enter into this
arrangement.
Point of order,
Lord Mayor, I did not say that at all. I am being misrepresented. I said that there was advice prior to the removal of the parklet to the owner, who was given the option to remove it himself. That is what I said. I am sick to death of hearing these misrepresentations.
Ripping up parklets is not good governance. Ripping up parklets in no way
I
is
would like
good
an
governance.
apology, Lord Mayor. I mean, that kind of thing has to stop. He can make an apology and withdraw it, or he can just withdraw it.
I'll consider that at a later time, perhaps in the next council meeting. I'll consider withdrawing it.
I think it's proper that if one has made accusations and been
let me review the footage and I'll come back to you.
No, I won't accept
Councillor, I think that if
I do not think it's good governance to rip up a parklet. It's plain and simple. Good governance should not be a part of this discussion at all. He had his parklet ripped up and he got a donation he's contributing
is
to.
obfuscating again.
We don't need to debate the parklet. We're talking about your behaviour, and the councillor just asked you to withdraw or reword what you said. It's not an unreasonable...
If Councillor Martin didn't say that it was good governance, that this process is being followed, then I'll withdraw. However, under no circumstance is this process good governance. And what has happened to this ratepayer is not good governance.
I think, Councillor, you can't suggest he said something he didn't say.
I can't remember. If you're saying he said something differently, I'm happy to take that at face value. I'll review the footage and apologise at the next council meeting if that would, if I've misquoted you. Otherwise, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I remember you said the words good governance and said that this council was following good governance in relation to
Lord
our
Mayor,
conduct.
I did not say that, and it is not satisfactory for someone to say something and then denying that they remember what they said. That is just an appalling response.
I remember you used the word good governance and ripping up a parklet. That's what I remember. Now, this is a test...
I think that's... Can you just hold on for a moment, Councillor? I do think that it would be very easy just to say, I apologise if I misquoted you. That's all.
If I've misquoted you, I apologise.
Thank you.
But let me reiterate that good governance and any statement about how this is good governance should not be associated at all with this, because it is not good governance to rip up a parklet. Now, this is a test for council. This is a test for fairness, consistency and courage of the members here. I support this motion because I support equal treatment for our small businesses, and because when council gets it wrong, the right thing to do is fix it, not bury it under good governance.
Thank you, Councillor. They came in within the 3 minutes. Councillor Siebentrit.
Lord Mayor, I'll be very brief on this. I'm empathetic to the issue that's been raised in point number 1. I have spoken to Mr McLean. My concern, though, is exactly what's transpiring here tonight, that we are getting into a debate around a matter which is really something that should be getting dealt with directly with administration, and I completely respect that there have been multiple conversations, and I don't deny that. From my perspective, further settlement or mediation is required, but the chamber is not the place, as we can see, to attempt to get some form of settlement or mediation. I don't think there is any winner coming out of this discussion at the moment. This is a matter that requires further mediation or settlement with the administration. So I am very empathetic towards what's been raised here in point 1. In relation to point 2, at the current point in time, I don't quite understand exactly what this is requesting. And in relation to point 3, we have just in the budget heard that we are adopting a different approach to rating our parklets. That is resulting in lower parklet fees for parklet holders. So I believe we've dealt with item 3. So I won't be supporting it, Lord Mayor, not because I'm empathetic towards the situation. I am. It's just that I believe this is a matter that requires further mediation with the administration.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I think, if you're happy, Councillor Couros, shall we take this in parts? And may we take it in parts? Or do you want it on block? We'll do it on block then, if you're happy with that. Councillor, would you like to sum up?
Lord Mayor, I just want to remind councillors that you are elected members, that you are acting on behalf of the ratepayers, that you are here because you were elected by them. You are not here because the state government appointed you. You are not here because you went through a rigorous panel. You are here because the ratepayers elected you. So you are here in this chamber to fight for them. You are not here to fight for administration. I just want you to understand that. I also want you to understand this motion because I think all of you have misinterpreted it. One, it's very clear, reinstate the parklet. Number two is to waive the liability, with the words amended by Councillor Davis, for the outdoor dining and loss of car parking revenues applied to all parklet holders for 23-24 due to inconsistency charges. And this is to be prepared in the report so we can see the inconsistency charges, so then we can make a decision on what's going to be reimbursed. So what we're basically asking here is to be fair and equitable to all parklet holders, because some had their fees waived, others didn't, some got reduced, others didn't. Why? Why did that happen? And that's what we're here for today, to find out that information, to fight for our ratepayers, to get that information. Because, as I have detailed in Mr McLean's deputation, he didn't get that information. He wasn't provided that information because he couldn't talk about, because the other parklet holders' fees and charges cannot be disclosed to somebody else, which we understand. But how about it being disclosed to us for being fair and equitable? So let me just say, this is not about one business, but it's about upholding fairness and consistency across the city. It's about local businesses deserving to be treated in an equal way and transparently. The motion addresses a failure in the process that the council has the power and responsibility to correct. We have that power to correct. It's in our hands. The administration's comment saying that the parklet was removed and disposed of and reinstatement will possess reputational risk. I actually dispute that. The reputational risk is actually on us right now. We're talking about being unfair. We have been unfair. We're talking about embarrassed. We are embarrassed. This was all over the media. Like, how did we possibly do this? Why did we do this? Why did we not just consider what Mr McLean was wanting to understand from council administration? The removal was a result of a breakdown in communication and inconsistently handling, not a refusal to pay without cause.
Leave to extend? Leave sought? All those in favour? Thank you. Please carry on.
What we're also looking for is... sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. This motion was brought through in December, which 2024, I can't quite remember, not that long ago, by another councillor, while majority of councillors were away, and which we couldn't really have a good discussion in regards to it. So this was the opportunity to be able to have that, because this has been presented to you before. Mr McLean has tried to reach out to every single one of you. He's tried to discuss his case to you, and he's tried to have you understand what the challenges he has faced. And these are the challenges continuously being faced with our community out there from the businesses in feeling like they're not being heard. This is their voice right here, right now, and we should respect that. The motion is not about special treatment. It's about consistent treatment. It's not about recognising where the system has failed, but restoring confidence in how a council supports its businesses. As I stated, 75% of our rates revenue comes from businesses. I urge all councillors to support this motion for fairness, transparency, and ensuring that we are here to represent the very people who elected you to do the right thing for them, instill future trust for the community that we serve. That's what this is about, and that's what we should be doing as elected members.
Thank you, councillor. I'll put that then to the floor. All those in favour of the amend... Oh, the... I'm sorry? I took it as a variation, so in favour of all three parts. All those in favour? All those against? That's lost. A division has been called.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item 17.1. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Kouros and Councillor Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, that was lost. Now can we move on to motions without notice? Councillor Kouros, do you have a motion without notice? I just thought you were standing. You might have had... Sorry, I apologise. Anybody, any others? If not, there's one question on notice. Any questions without notice?
Yeah, I have a question without notice.
Yes, Councillor.
I wanted to ask you about the Live Golf arrangements and why you were not informed earlier of the state's plan to essentially cut us out of the loop in regards to Live Golf.
I'm not able to predict what the decision-making process was.
Okay. Essentially, do you have any reason or understanding of why the state government has proceeded since February earlier this year, since it was first announced? My understanding is that the council was negotiating in good faith. Do you have any indication as to why the state government proceeded with the Act of Parliament with such a sudden nature without any kind of notice or consultation with you?
My understanding up until now was that the timeline, the Gantt chart, and the required activities that had to be got through were not activated because there were no plans. We had been optimistic that a plan would have been available early on in the year, and that would have been that would have put the state government in the position to activate the requirements for planning, consultation, APLMS, the whole range of issues. And in the absence of a plan, they couldn't activate any of the consultations.
So why did they take control of the golf course then?
I beg your pardon?
Why did they follow that course of action rather than, we've been negotiating for 4 months. If they knew that this wasn't going to work earlier, what's the sudden change when you leave the country? Do they introduce emergency legislation to get around this? What was a change? There must have been a change.
I'm not able to interpret actions of other people.
So did they give you any kind of insight? Were we complying with their schedule? Were we doing everything we possibly could?
I'm not able to interpret what other people do.
No, the question was, were we complying with our schedule? Were we complying with the
yes, I
state government?
apologise. Yes, we were not able to activate any of the processes because the applicant, the state government, would have had to embark on each of the steps. We had a Gantt chart with deadlines, and I complained regularly that they were missing deadlines. So it was an issue that must have built up over several months, but there were no plans available, no designs, no concept plans.
Okay, because the Premier did say on radio that the council has a propensity, I suppose, to get in the way. Do you have any indication of why he made that comment and whether it was any action of ours, or is the Premier wrong?
Well, naturally I would reject that characterisation because none of the steps, none of the legislation, none of the processes, none of the consultation were created by the Adelaide City Council. There was no red tape or blockage created by us. They were all state government, parliamentary processes put in place by the state of South Australia, not by us.
Right, so essentially the state governments set up their own red tape and then now they're accusing the council of not being able to comply with it as a reason to seize it. So
I don't think you should verbal me in that way. Let me just say it again. The legislation around the Adelaide Parklands Authority, the Planning Act, the APLMS and all the other processes have been set in train by state governments over many years. So you can't characterise this as being the action of the current government.
So then the state government could have, rather than to take control of Live Golf, they could have proposed an alternative legislation to relieve us of those obligations to comply with that schedule. I see nodding from the CEO.
I think that's what they've done.
by taking it. But what remains of our involvement in this project?
I think you've got access to the legislation, and you can see that this is overriding legislation.
This cuts us out of the picture for the negotiation. Is that right?
I think that's true. There is a consultation clause.
There is a consultation protocols clause in the bill that requires the council to identify the matters on which it wishes to be consulted, and that's a piece of work the administration is progressing as we speak.
Okay. When will we get that back in a couple of weeks, or I assume fairly quickly?
We'll get that in front of council as soon as we can.
Okay. In terms of that timeline, if we weren't able to comply with it, was it suggested to the state government by council that we essentially waive that process or seek legislation to alleviate us of our responsibilities for consultation?
Before, this was not us putting the process in place. These were state instrumentalities and legislation that have been in place for some years. Our role was to cooperate totally with the state government. We made available every piece of data, every map, every understanding, all the topographical charts, the soil testing, the irrigation maps, everything of any relevance. We cooperated fully, and I should acknowledge that the staff leant over backwards and worked very hard to give all the information to the government and the course designers. Yeah. Having said that, I'll just repeat, we have not put any measures in place to obstruct or block the process. These are government processes.
No, I understand that. I'm saying, did we suggest as an alternative? I mean, when did it become clear that we wouldn't be able to actually comply with their proposed timeline?
We do not.
Because I remember a workshop saying it was.
We don't
close.
Comply with their timeline. As an applicant, they have to comply with the timelines in place.
Right, and so we weren't happy with their timeframes of when they would comply with us.
No, I don't verbal me again. I said we gave them advice about the Gantt chart that needed to be delivered on in order to reach the end point by June, and those dates were missed.
Okay, so they failed to comply with those legislative requirements. When did it become apparent that they wouldn't meet those requirements as per their deadline? Like, was it early on in Feb? Was it last week? Like, what? I'm just trying to figure out what exactly the change has been.
I think this has been a regular comment, but the CEO will assist.
Through the presiding member, the key issue for council members to understand is that on the Thursday before the introduction of the legislation, the draft bill, we were still in discussions with DPC representatives around the terms of a draft MOU and a draft lease.
Right. So we had no reason to suspect that they were going to do this at all.
And progressing those matters was dependent on the delivery of a concept design. The advice on the Thursday before the introduction of the legislation was that they did not have a finalised concept design. Everything hinges on that.
Right. Can I ask as well, in terms of their time frame, they've said that it's so urgent that this must happen immediately, otherwise the contract will fail. In my experience, it seems to me like they're somewhat ways off a concept design. They haven't actually released it. I mean, it doesn't seem plausible to me. I'm not sure if I suppose I'd ask you a comment. It doesn't seem plausible to me that there was this drop-dead date that if they didn't, that they wouldn't be able to start works on it. Is it true what they're saying, that they wouldn't have, that the contract will be void if they didn't do what they did in the State Parliament to take control of it?
Through the presiding member, we've had no visibility of any external arrangements or agreements between state government and other parties.
Yeah.
Our negotiation have been solely centred on what Council, in accordance with its resolution of the 25th of February, could do to support the state government in delivering its aspiration.
I think they also said that there was no pressure from the contractor either, from Live Golf. So, I mean, yeah, look, something's gone on. I would love to know what it is, but perhaps we'll never get to the bottom of this mystery. But clearly something has happened that we're not aware of and the public's not aware of, particularly given the comments made by Peter Malinauskas about the processes of the council. So I just ask in future, if that becomes available, could you please inform us, or could be a confidential workshop if we become aware of what the issues are.
Any more questions, Councillor?
Here for all the questions that Councillor Davis asked, so if I'm doubling up, please tell me that it's been answered. It's been stated in the media, or in question time actually, not in the media, that there were 17 meetings with the state government and with the City of Adelaide. Is it safe to say that we only had 2 briefings on this matter as a council?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure of the question.
There were 17 meetings between the state government and the City of Adelaide. I only know of 2 briefings from the administration to council members. Is that correct?
Through the presiding member, that reference to the number of meetings is your administration and representatives of DPC, and the number sounds about right. There were only 2 briefings in relation to the matter, Councillor, because we could never get any progress on the discussions with the state government, which were totally dependent on the provision of a concept plan.
So with the 17 meetings, how many were you present at, Lord Mayor?
I think I had 2 meetings. The rest were administrative in terms of maps and data sets.
So when was your last meeting with the Premier or whoever that? Was it just before the announcement?
The Premier had no design processes. He didn't have any concept designs. And I met him on 2 weeks ago, Wednesday. That would be the 11th.
Right, okay. So the state government advised in the media that they had a deadline which was June, knowingly that we haven't entered into an agreement or anything, or the discussions haven't progressed. Why was an emergency council meeting held in the beginning of June to let us know that this is not progressing further and it looks likely to, and talk about the risk, the approaching risks to the elected members?
We had no further information to give.
But he was very clear about his deadline being June.
Well, I think it's almost July, so...
Not quite.
I think that there's clearly, in the absence of a plan, it's very difficult to see progress. I can't answer any further.
Okay. I guess in light of all this, it's a very important matter and we've lost a very important asset. And I guess my question is, why wasn't an emergency briefing called in? An emergency briefing, knowing that we're approaching June, end of June.
We had no reason to call a meeting at that stage, but I can understand you wanted more briefings.
So when was the last briefing held?
I'm not able to give you dates. I'm sorry.
That was with the announcement.
I think you'll have to maybe wait for a report.
A briefing regarding the progress. Sorry.
I think that it's getting beyond a conversation. This is becoming a conversation rather than a question, and I think that we should
Are there any costs associated to the Adelaide City Council with a handover?
I'm sorry, I can't understand your question.
Will there be any costs associated to the Adelaide City Council when we hand over and give away the...
We have no information to give you.
Lord Mayor, may I raise a point of order?
No, not really.
This is not
Please,
estimates.
Councillor,
What's your point of order?
The point of order is that we are now straying into an area where the interests of the council and confidentiality are at risk when there's an expectation that there will be a discussion with the government. To be having those detailed discussions at this time is saying very close to prejudicing those discussions, in my view. I think that you and the CEO should have the capacity to speak
Are you
openly
doing a
with
point of
government
order
and for
in
them.
regard to something I said,
Councillor.
or are you speaking to it? That was not a point of order. You're
Councillor.
actually giving advice.
Councillor, I think that we don't need to shout across the room.
Inappropriate, Lord
Councillor,
Mayor, and you allowed him to speak. There was no
there is
point
no
of
need
order.
to shout. It's unseemly.
Was it appropriate that he wasn't stopped, Lord Mayor?
I
Because
think we
there was
won't
no
take
point
any
of
more
order.
questions because
I
we're
have one.
strained.
I have one more. When will we be getting a full briefing on this matter, whether it's in confidence or not?
I'm not able to tell you at the moment.
Okay, I'll move a motion without notice that the... I can move a motion without notice at any time during a meeting. I can move a motion without notice at any time during a meeting. Yes, but I understand it's not in the relevant section. I'd like to move a motion without notice, which I can at any time during the meeting. Would you like to hear it?
I think that if it's not a matter of urgency and has no...
It's pretty damn urgent. We just had our golf course ripped off us by the state government.
I'm sorry?
The state government just cut us out of a massive part of our parklands. I think that our ratepayers... We don't know what my motion is. Can I propose the motion? Huh? No, I'm going to dictate it.
Can we not debate across the room because I find it difficult to
No,
follow?
I get heckled all the time, Lord Mayor. My motion is that the council, as soon as practicable, receives a briefing on the proposed state government legislation and the effect of the discussions or communications with the state government to date.
I'd already given that undertaking.
I think that undertaking's already been given.
But then Councillor Couros said when would that briefing occur, and you say that you can't answer that question.
I don't know the date.
Could we ask the CEO if he could give us a potential
Certainly.
estimate?
Have we got a date?
No. It's as soon as practical.
As soon as practicable.
That's the undertaking I gave earlier. Yes.
Great. Well, that's the answer to the question rather than I don't know the answer. Thank you.
Are we going to take this motion? Is it second? Okay, we've had an undertaking, so we can move on. Are there any other questions without notice? Councillor Giles.
I would just ask a question around I think it's 46 staff members who work for us for the golf course, and whether or not that... Yep.
Matters to do with staff are best discussed in confidence.
Okay.
So.
I just, yeah.
Unless there another question, Councillor.
Can administration advise how much it costs to remove the parklet on the Sunday?
I'm not. That's a question on notice. Yep. We'll take it on notice. Thank you. So we'll move on the agenda. 21, exclusion of the public. We have one item, I think, moved by Councillor Siebentrit, seconded by Deputy Lord Mayor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. That's the exclusion clause. And can we take a second one for the next item? That's 23 and 24. So moved by Councillor Siebentrit, seconded by someone sitting down, please. Councillor Giles. All those in favour? All against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So 2 exclusion clauses. We have a quorum.